All right, hello everyone. Welcome to our lesson for October 17th. This is Influence of Parents and Peers. So, objectives and standards to recognize how families impact the teenage years and explain why teenagers join certain groups. And if you would please take a look at the standards. And our vocabulary preview, clique, a smaller group of people typically exclusively inside a larger group of people, and conformity, which is a person acting in accordance with a specified authority. So, once you think about this, obviously, maybe being teenagers or going through most of your teenage years, do you think families and peers play a role in teenage development? And then our essential question, how do parents and peers impact teenage development? So, the American family has changed since the 1970s. Prior to that period, most families had a father who worked outside the home and a mother who worked inside the home. Today, most marriages end in divorce, and women are also working outside the home. Sorry, there should be a space there. I'll try and fix that. There's a space there. Sorry about that. Women are working outside the home, and families have two sources of income. And this gradually does have an impact on teenage development. So, teenagers must learn to become independent of adults, regardless of their home life or home situation. And these changes can be difficult for both parents and teens. Most times, parents are reluctant to let their children go. They're reluctant to let their children explore and become their own selves. Some parents are even worried that their children may not be ready for the world that's ahead of them. They're not ready to be adults yet, or they don't know how the real world functions or works. Teenagers also want to move out on their own and form their own identity and form their own relationships, but some are afraid of failing, and fear failure. Especially many teens going to college. I know myself when I went to college. Yes, I was looking forward to kind of going out on my own and kind of forming my own life, but it is scary. It's a very scary unknown world when you kind of start out as an older teenager in college. And parents also worry about the whole idea of the rebellious teenager. Are they being too strict or not strict enough? And are their teenagers going to rebel against, the way of life that they've established for them? So these are just some of the changes that can be difficult for both parents and teens as they enter adolescence. Now, teenagers typically trust that their friends will not look at them as children, like their parents look at them as children constantly. So, teenagers will spend more time with friends because their friends see them as equals, unlike their parents. Teenagers use high schools to get together. They use, this educational system to get together, and typically everybody knows who belongs to what group and what that group does for entertainment. Now, typically, these groups in high school will be divided by sex in the beginning, by male and female, but then eventually mixing does occur as boys and girls will hang out with each other then gradually over time. Now, most groups are formed by social class, so typically maybe more of the wealthier kids will hang out together, and the more lower class, poorer classes will hang out together. And schools typically try to use activities like high school dances or sporting events to try to bring teens of different social classes together. So they try to break down that class structure barrier. Now, there are other influences that impact peer groups as well, such as why we form certain groups. Personality is definitely one of them. Obviously, if teenagers are more outgoing and friendly, they may hang out with those teenagers who are more friendly and outgoing. And if a teenager may be shy or more, a little reluctant to make friends or put themselves out there, they will typically form friendships or bonds with people who are also shy or more reluctant to make friends. Appearance is also another big factor in this, unfortunately. Sometimes, you know, girls will hang out with girls who wear makeup or dress a certain way, and boys may hang out with boys who are more muscular and, that type of stuff, maybe dress the same way. So it depends on your opinion of how appearance should play into that. But unfortunately, we do form groups and friendships off of, personality and appearance. Sports and athletic ability is also another big one. Typically, boys and girls will form groups after, sports and athletic ability. And that's why I put the picture up here of two teenage boys playing basketball because, they would most likely form a friendship or a group friendship because of their athletic ability. Now, the creation of cliques is very important to teenagers because most teenagers want to fulfill their need for closeness. As teens are growing, they're looking to, again, form relationships, form their own identities, and they're also looking to create that closeness with others. Like I just said, they're also looking to create their own identity. Cliques also allow for independence from family, clarification of new roles, self-confidence can be improved, and also it clarifies their values. Teens are beginning to explore their own values that may be the same or different from their parents, so they're able to, sort out those values that they're questioning. Now, there is some problems with cliques, and one of the major problems is conformity. Teens fear being disliked, and this can lead to conformity. So again, a teen, for example, a teenage girl may, want to go out and buy the newest pair of jeans or the newest clothing styles to fit in with a certain group of people she wants to be a part of. Or I hate to say it, but sometimes bullying. If a group is bullying a certain student, sometimes teens will join in the bullying because they want to conform. They want to be part of that group. They don't want to be seen as the outsider. They want to be a part of that group or that social clique. Clothing styles and pressures to do things like we were just saying. So, bullying or, certain uses or, that may be certain illegal uses or other activities. It may cause teens to do those things or, perform those things because, even though it's against their better judgment. Now, group matters are also not the only influence in the lives of teenagers. Now, in terms of certain things like fashion and music, we typically understand that teenagers set the standards for those. Obviously, the music that I listened to when I was a teenager may be a little bit different than the music that you listen to, and same with the fashion styles. I know those have changed since I was a teenager. I'm older than you, but not much older. Some of those fashion styles have definitely changed. But teenagers typically set those things. Now, sometimes school-related issues also fall under the influence of peers as well. Sometimes teens, obviously, if they're having a high school dance, what should the theme of the dance be? Sporting events, other activities, groups, like clubs, maybe certain clubs that are out there. I know today there's a lot of video game and computer game clubs. When I was a teenager, we didn't have too many of those because teenagers, a lot of video games and computer clubs, we, weren't really part of our social atmosphere. I'm sure people played them, but it wasn't a big factor. Nowadays, more people are into gaming and video gaming and computer gaming and stuff like that, so there's more clubs that allow for them in schools. Now, teens will typically follow the views of their parents on certain other issues and not their friends. One is educational plans. Obviously, college or, if you're going to go to a tech school, obviously you may trust your parents' opinions on that more so than your friends. Marriage is also a big topic that teenagers typically discuss with their parents, and religion as well. So those are kind of some of the big three that, teens will typically follow their views of their parents on those things. Now, teenagers may depend on peers, but they also follow their parents. A lot of times some parents see their friends or your friends or teenagers as a threat to, their parental authority. And yes, that's true to a degree, but it's also not true as well. So peers typically choose friends of similar backgrounds and views of their parents. So again, you may form friendships with people in your neighborhood or, maybe friends that your parents hang out with. I know when my sister and I were growing up, we hung out with a lot of the friends that our parents were friends with. We hung out with their kids. So that was a big factor of that. And these peer groups can also help teenagers, transfer to adulthood because they have the same views as their parents or the same beliefs as their parents. So this will help them transfer to adulthood as well. Now, psychologist Judith Rich Harris stated that peer groups teach children how to behave in the world. She said that more so than parents, it's peer groups that influence how we behave in the world. She did this in 1998. And so she stated that parents should live in good neighborhoods so children will form friendships with these kids, since they're coming from the same background and the same neighborhood setting. And many psychologists disagree with this, saying that's not really true. But again, Harris still argued that parents should do this. All right, so the influence of parents and peers. Teenagers separate yet also look to their parents. So again, they're looking to be independent from their parents, but they also look to their parents for certain values, like we said, like educational planning, religion, marriage, things like that. And peers and groups do have an impact on teenage views and behaviors. Again, the whole social clique thing, which I'm sure many are familiar with, conforming to different views and different things that are going on. So peers do have an impact on how teenagers act and behave. All right. So that's all I have for today. So if you would be sure to submit the questions, I'll see and talk to you soon.